Welcome to a deep dive into the book of Job.
Yeah.
It's a story that I think grapples with some of humanity's toughest questions. We're
Yeah.
talking about suffering,
Hmm.
faith, and what it even means to be in the presence of something divine.
It's interesting you use the word grapple because Job's story, it's not some, neatly packaged parable
Right,
with like a clear moral at the end.
right.
It's raw,
Yeah.
it's messy, and it's intensely human.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so relevant even today, right? Like we can look at these ancient
Mm.
stories and we're still asking the same question.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we're doing today. We're diving into the text itself.
Yeah.
No spark notes, no cliff notes, no
Straight from the source.
straight from the source.
Velvet.
To really unearth those uncomfortable truths that I think we often shy away from,
See, I feel-
especially when we talk about faith and our existence.
And it all starts with this incredibly vivid portrait of Job himself.
Right.
I mean, this is a man described as blameless and upright, someone who feared God and shunned evil.
Okay.
But it's not just his piety. The text goes into great detail about his wealth, his
Yeah.
family, 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, like the works. This wasn't just a good man.
Right.
This was a blessed man.
Yeah, it really sets up this like idyllic almost picture, right?
Yeah.
Which honestly makes what's about to happen even more jarring, right?
Huh.
Because it's not just some random turn of fate.
Right.
We're dropped right into this like celestial courtroom drama.
Yeah, you're right into a cosmic wager right from the start.
Yeah.
You're made aware of forces beyond human comprehension.
Right.
God is essentially boasting about Job to Satan,
Right.
highlighting his unwavering devotion.
Yeah.
But Satan, the ultimate cynic, throws down a challenge. And he's like, he's only good because you've made him comfortable.
It's like such a like
It really is.
I don't know, I almost feel bad for Job at this point, right? It's like he's a pawn in this cosmic wager.
Well, and that's the thing. It's easy to gloss over that detail.
Right.
But think about it.
Yeah.
The fate of a man's life, his very existence, is being debated by divine beings.
Yeah, and not just debated, it's like
It's why
gambled on.
Yeah, for sport.
And that sets the stage for just this descent into suffering that is almost unbearable to read, right?
It's rough.
And we're not talking about like losing a parking spot here.
Right.
Job loses it all.
Loses everything.
His livestock are wiped out, his children perish in this freak accident, his body is covered in boils.
It's brutal.
And then we get to chapter 3, which to me is just like the weight of his despair just is so palpable.
Yeah.
Because again, his words are not pretty. He's cursing the day he was born.
Right.
He's longing for death. This isn't that sanitized version of suffering that we so often encounter.
No.
It is raw, visceral expression of grief and anger, at this situation.
And that's the genius of this text.
Yeah.
Because Job isn't struck down with like quiet acceptance,
Mhm.
He rages, he questions, he demands answers. And in doing so, he gives voice to the very human emotions that we often try to suppress, especially when it comes to faith.
Mm.
And it's right into this pit of despair that his friends kind of come in, right? And they don't come with like casseroles and condolences.
Yeah. Not exactly the best support group.
No, but what's interesting about it, though?
What's that?
The text tells us they sat with him in silence for 7 days and 7 nights.
Wow.
Like no speeches, no platitudes, just like shared presence in the face of unimaginable pain.
It does make you wonder if maybe at first their heart was in the right place. Like maybe they knew that words were just useless, and so they just showed up and let him feel their support.
It's a powerful image of empathy, I
Yeah.
think. Right? And it's
Yeah.
worth noting before we kind of delve into like their less than helpful attempts at comfort.
Right, because there's silence. It doesn't last forever.
It does not.
And, pretty soon those words become a chorus of accusations, right?
Right? They're like, okay, enough of this silence.
Yeah.
Time to explain this suffering.
Well, and each friend, right, is convinced that he must have done something to deserve this.
Of course.
Which, let's be honest, that's a very human reaction to suffering.
Oh, totally.
Even today.
Right.
Like, we want there to be a reason, an explanation.
Right. We want it to make sense.
Even if it means finding fault with the victim.
Exactly. And each friend kind of embodies a different facet of that impulse to explain suffering.
Okay, I like that.
So we've got Eliphaz, the eldest. He represents like this rigid adherence to divine justice. You're like, God is just.
Right.
Therefore, suffering must be a consequence of sin.
It's like that very clear equation.
Yeah, it's a very neat equation.
Right.
And you can almost hear him thinking like, well, Job you must have messed up somewhere along the line.
Yeah, you reap what you sow,
Right, exactly.
taken to the extreme.
And this worldview,
Mm-hmm.
while perhaps comforting in its simplicity, right,
But,
leaves no room for the possibility of undeserved suffering.
right.
And then you have Bildad, who draws on tradition and ancestral wisdom.
Okay.
He's like, you know what? Suffering is often generational.
Oh, boy.
A punishment visited upon children for the sins of their fathers.
So not only is he suffering, but now he's responsible for his children's fate as well.
Right. Add insult to injury.
Yeah.
Brutal.
A lot.
It's a lot. And it reflects the enduring power of societal norms
Mm-hmm.
and inherited beliefs.
Right.
And then there's Zophar,
Okay.
the most fiery of the three,
Oh, boy.
who seems to relish in his descriptions of the wicked being punished.
Oh, like that friend who sends you those karma's a bitch memes.
Exactly.
Whenever, like, someone they don't like experiences a setback.
Exactly. He's all about immediate, visible justice.
Oh, wow.
He sees Job's suffering as evidence of hidden sin,
Oh, no.
like a cosmic expose waiting to be revealed.
Oh, man, that's rough. Honestly, listening to these friends with their, like, neat little boxes for suffering, it's kind of hard not to feel a little frustrated myself. Like, it's just so easy to fall back on these explanations, right? These attempts to impose order on a world that just feels so chaotic sometimes.
Absolutely. And Job, to his credit, refuses to play along, right?
Yeah.
His response to his friends isn't one of quiet acceptance or even like begrudging agreement.
Right.
It is a torrent of raw, unfiltered emotion. Remember those beautiful descriptions of his piety at the beginning?
Yeah.
Gone. Job lets loose his fury, questioning God, railing against the injustice of it all.
And he does not hold back.
No, he does not.
He even goes so far as to curse the day he was born,
Yeah.
wishing he never existed. And these aren't the words of someone who's resigned to their fate.
No.
These are the words of someone who is grappling with the very core of their being.
There's a visceral expression of despair,
Yeah.
you say? And it's precisely this rawness, I think, that makes Job's experience so relatable, even thousands of years later. I mean, we've all felt that sense of utter hopelessness at some point, that questioning of why me?
Right.
Why this? Job gives voice to those doubts, those moments of darkness
Yeah.
that we often shy away from, especially in the context of faith.
It's like he's giving us permission to not have the answers, you know,
Absolutely.
to sit in that uncomfortable space of doubt and anger.
Yeah, and what's remarkable is that through all of this,
Yeah.
Job never denies God's existence.
He doesn't.
He questions, he argues, he even yells at God,
Right.
but he never denies.
Which I think is such a key distinction, right?
It's huge.
He's not rejecting faith. He's
Right.
actively engaging with it.
He's wrestling with the very nature of God in the face of unimaginable pain.
Yeah.
He embodies the idea that true faith isn't about blind acceptance,
Right.
but about engaging in the struggle, even perhaps, especially when it hurts.
So after all this back and forth, this raw emotional outpouring, like, does Job ever get an answer?
However,
Does God, like, offer an explanation for his suffering?
this is where the story takes another unexpected turn.
Okay.
God finally responds,
Okay.
not with a gentle whisper or a comforting hand,
Uh-huh.
but with a whirlwind.
Oh, wow. Okay, talk about a dramatic entrance.
Right. And from this whirlwind, God doesn't offer the explanations that Job and his friends have been debating.
Okay.
Instead, God poses a series of questions,
Okay.
drawing Job's attention to the vastness of creation,
Mm-hmm.
the complexity of the natural world.
So instead of answering why, God's essentially asking, do you even understand?
Right. Do you even comprehend the scope of my creation?
Yeah.
It's a humbling realization, right?
It is.
It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest wisdom lies in acknowledging the mystery.
Which is so interesting because I think as humans, we crave those answers.
Want to know why?
We want explanations.
Of course.
Especially in the face of suffering.
Right.
But what Job receives is something arguably even more profound.
Absolutely.
It's just this experience of the divine that transcends human understanding.
And it's in this encounter, this face-to-face with the divine, that Job's perspective shifts, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't receive a neat explanation for his suffering, but he gains something arguably more valuable, a deeper understanding of God's power and the limits of human knowledge.
I love that. So where does that leave us? Like, what can we even take away from Job's journey, this whirlwind of suffering and questioning?
Perhaps it's just a reminder that faith isn't about having all the answers, you know?
Yeah.
It's about wrestling with the big questions. Even when they seem insurmountable,
Mm-hmm.
it's about holding on to hope, not as a guarantee of a comfortable life,
Right.
but as a way of facing the unknown with courage and humility.
It's about embracing that mystery, that
Yeah.
awe-inspiring complexity of existence.
And maybe, just maybe, it's about recognizing that sometimes the greatest encounter
Yeah.
is not receiving an answer,
Right.
but experiencing the profound wonder of the divine.
I love that. It's so true.
And with that, I'll leave you with this thought.
Yes, please.
Job never learns why he suffered,
Right.
but he sees God.
Mm-hmm.
Which encounter would you choose? And what does your choice reveal about the nature of your own faith?